wonderful.
That's funny.
Some of the ones at the AMV tonight were they did Death
Hey,
Parade.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to an anime story podcast. We're here to talk about anime of all things. My name's Jake. I'm one of your hosts. This is Mandy over on the right and Noah on the bottom.
Hello.
Mandy, how are you doing today? You're over at NDK right now. How's that?
I am. It's been awesome. I finished the AMVs and they were excellent. And I'm ready to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Oh boy, Noah, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I am so relaxed. Working on staff has been wonderful. I work in staff suite, and they're just treating everyone so wonderful, and it's been really cool.
That is awesome.
We've
That
done
is
a lot
awesome.
of fun stuff.
Noah, so you and I earlier today we rushed to finish Land of the Lusterous because we'd been watching it this week. That is our discussion topic for the day. Land of the Lusterous. Also, let me just make sure everything seems to be working okay. Last week, I was muted for the first 5 minutes, which was my favorite thing ever, personally.
Are you good now?
5 minutes, which was my favorite thing ever, personally.
Are you good now?
Yeah, I think we're good. All right, but yeah, so Land of the Lusterous. We watched it. Their opinions. Mandy, go ahead. What is your opinion? On Land of the Lusterous?
I highly enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the idea of how microorganisms can become people. Like with the microorganisms melding with the rocks because they're rocks, minerals based. Very pre-sequel is Steven Universe to Land of Lusterous, I feel like. It was so neat. I loved that it was digital. It was
that is really interesting.
Awesome.
And Noah and I were having a conversation about this and how that kind of digital animation probably is a lot less expensive than doing traditional animation. I would imagine with all the tools out there digitally.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe nowadays.
Yeah, because you can make the character models, you rig them up, and then in order to do scenes, you just move the rigging around.
Which puts a lot more power in the hands of people who want to do that. And if you don't have to have a studio with artists and all these people to make a show. Oh, pardon me. You just have to get some animation software. Maybe get a couple of your friends. You can make an. There's more to it than that, but it is a lot easier.
I like I think that it does make theoretically it makes getting into anime and creating works it reduces the barrier of entry to that. So hopefully we'll see a lot more indie projects with this style of animation in the future. Have you seen Ruby?
No, I haven't.
Oh, Ruby's very, very popular, and it's done in a 3D kind of style as well.
I'll check that out next.
Yeah, no, but that was just kind of a side note. I thought it was kind of an interesting aspect of the animation. I thought some of the animation was interesting. I liked some moments in it. I thought sometimes it was a little bit clunky looking. Stylistically,
really? Why?
Walking is clunky. The
but
people feel weightless. Well, no, they're rocks and they're heavy, but they feel the torsos will not really be moving very much and they'll be walking. I thought I didn't like the way it looked when they were walking. While running looked okay. When they're jumping through the air and doing stuff, a lot of that looked great. A lot of people said they liked the action in it, and I thought most of the action looked good. It wasn't it's not really my kind of style. It struck me in kind of a weird way.
Yeah.
So it reminds me of a lot of the early CG in the late 90s and early 2000s. That's
so funny you'd say that because I kind of felt the opposite.
Oh yeah.
I felt like they did such a nice job because I feel like in the past a lot of animes that I've tried this, it didn't seem real or clunky, or I actually felt the exact opposite. I felt like they did a really smooth job at making it look realistic, and it didn't feel like a game. It didn't feel like it wasn't flowing. I felt like I was really immersed.
I
So it's
think
so funny.
I think this is a difference in where you're each coming from. I think, Mandy, you're coming from like having seen CG integrated into a lot of
Yeah.
different anime, and so like given given some animes in the past and how they've used CG, Land of the Lustrous nails it because it's very consistent and it looks pretty good throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's and I come from a more maybe traditional art background and digital drawing and painting background, so a lot of CG stuff. I'm a big fan of hand drawn animation. Uh,
I am too.
CG stuff. It looks okay. They make some really good CG these days, and they did do a pretty good job on Land of the Lustrous. It just wasn't really my kind of style.
That's fair. I feel like they honored. So, like, coming from where Noah's saying, where I've seen a lot that has tried and failed, I feel like it was like I still felt the animation in it. I still felt it could be flattened and beautiful. The grass, the way the grass moved,
Oh yeah,
like,
grass was very vibrant.
I actually, so here's something. I does the grass did they change the way they did the grass at the end,
From the
or was
beginning
it
to
the
the end.
same in the final episode as in the first episode? Because I remember looking at the final episode and being like, that grass looks really good. But I remember in the first episode thinking that the grass looked strange.
so my
Did they-
husband also noticed that there was another change in that one of the appearances of one of the stone girls, she actually does change from the first episode to the end episode, and I was like, oh, like even her eye color changes. So
Interesting.
Mhm.
there were tweaks.
I think one of the big things that causes CG to work in Land of the Lustrous is that they don't try to integrate it part way.
Yeah.
So we don't have this awkward sense of, wait, that's CG, but that's not CG. It's all CG. So it looks so much better because it's all consistent within itself.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I think is really important when it comes to any kind of storytelling through either sequential artwork or animation or anything like that is consistency. And the show was artistically very consistent. And one thing I was telling Noah, though, despite it not being my personal taste in the type of animation that I enjoy, it did lend itself to the way the animation was done, to the kind of nature of all the characters being stones. The way the animation was shaded and colored and the way it looked, they felt like stones, which I think probably was helped by some of the sound effects, some pretty good walking sound effects, interaction sound effects between characters and the floor and the ground and things like that. And then just like motion, like the being in the water, like when they're laying on the beach, characters laying on the beach and the water washing over them and they not moving at all, like a stone in the sand of the beach. That looked really good. So there were certainly aspects of it. They did a good job.
I think the more characters moved, the better the animation looked. The more static the characters were, or the more like subtle their gestures, the more clunky it felt. But when they were in motion a lot, it felt really good. It felt very solid.
Well, and one of the kind of criticisms that I had with respect to the animation and the style, I mean, it's kind of a plot point, I suppose, so it's not necessarily a bad thing, but all the characters were identical except for their hair color, their hair, their eyes, and their mouth, and the shape of their hair. But all the characters were identical. They have it's the exact same model for all the characters. They just have different hair. They have different eye color, different mouth color.
They have some minorly differing shapes to their faces,
Do they?
but I do agree that I think the character models are largely similar because part of it is also that they have
Yeah.
the same, for the most part, by and large, they have the same build for their
Right.
bodies, and they're wearing the same clothing.
Which
Well,
is a plot point. Like they're
yeah.
all the same stone people. It did kind of for me. It made the characters kind of blend together a little bit because it's like
I
hey,
want
I
to
couldn't.
hear.
Okay, yeah.
I want. I want to hear what
I
Mandy has to say.
I just think it's so funny. Like I totally got a different point of view, which is
Yeah.
hilarious. To me, like I thought Foss stood out among all of the other characters because she was more thin, really more fragile, and so like they could handle themselves. Like even bodily structure, they really could take on what they needed to take on, whereas Foss was rigid and slim and
Uh huh.
this other kind of being. And there were similarities like in the legs or the arms or things like that, but I still felt there were details in that were different.
No, that's
So,
fair. Yeah, those
and
I
I
didn't pick up
really
on anything.
liked that.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah, I
interesting.
know,
Yeah.
because that helped me in the sense that I was like, oh, she is frail. Like it was a
Mm-hmm.
story point because phosphorus as like a
Right.
compounded stone is fragile. So I thought that was really neat how they incorporated that even from the very beginning.
Right.
And that to me kind of led you on that journey through the story.
Mm-hmm. Well, so on that, what do you think of the story then overall, with Foss and the kind of fragility of the characters, or of some of the characters, and not some of the different aspects of being a stone. Um, tell me your thoughts on that because I have some thoughts on it. But
So Diamond is a sweetheart. Um, I loved how um, I I just loved how it developed, and I loved that she was so frail and was looking for this knowledge and craving attention and craving all of these things. And once because you want to get what you want,
right.
and she has to overcome those obstacles. And so once she overcomes her obstacles, how she kind of regrets it.
Mm-hmm.
And just that introverted like look upon yourself that says, wait, do I really want this?
Right.
And so like that to me was imperative in the story point.
Okay.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think it really led to something beautiful at the end. But at the same time, it left me not just wanting more, but I felt like there was more detail they could put into that because I felt like they spent a little too much time on developing the world rather than telling the story.
That's fair. How? What do you mean? How so? Do you mean that?
Um, so we kind of get the bad guy. We get
Mm-hmm.
kind of what's going on. We get, that the Lunarians are the bad guys
right.
from the beginning.
Right.
Um, we get that there's something more to that they may or may not be that bad. They
Mm-hmm.
may be that bad. We don't know. But I felt like we spent too much time on Foss's character development
Mm-hmm.
instead of instead of where are we headed with this.
Right.
And I'm actually excited to see season 2 because I want to see where they go with it because I think they have a really good trajectory.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like it was a little slow.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like we could have gotten to those points a little bit faster.
So the Lunarians, right?
Yes.
We don't learn a ton about them. We do see that they are extorting the squid people at one point, but
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that the Lunarians are a are not the best implemented antagonistic force. I kind of think that the story would be more interesting without them
Mm-hmm.
because the Lunarians end up being this force that shows up kind of at random and puts the characters in peril. but the characters don't have any way of seeking out the Lunarians. The characters can't act on their ambitions towards the Lunarians. They just have to wait for the Lunarians to show up. And the Lunarians sometimes show up during scenes where the characters are communicating and character development could be going on, but it gets interrupted by the Lunarians.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like the Lunarians are they impede the story in some way.
Yeah.
I think that they could be
They
removed
show
by
up
and
too much.
large.
Well, no. So this is an interesting thing. So the Lunarians, that I didn't find them particularly interesting. I think one of a couple of the major problems I had with them was that they don't seem to be, that much of a threat. Like it seems like they come in, cut them in half. It's kind of scary. Somebody might get snatched up by them, but it's not like the most horrifying thing ever. People they patrol every day, and it just seems kind of run of the mill. That's every
So
encounter with them seemed kind of run of the mill to me.
I think the reason why why you get that impression, I think the reason why the Lunarians don't seem like as huge a threat as they could is because we get this impression that the characters have been doing this for hundreds or
Right.
thousands of
Yeah.
years, depending on the characters, and that over that time they have been continually attacked by the Lunarians. They've continually lost people, and they've survived. So
Right.
there's a sense that the Lunarians coming and taking people is kind of just
Yeah.
something that has always
Yeah.
happened.
Just kind
I
of a
agree
thing,
with
and
that.
yeah, and I don't think that it's necessarily. Or go ahead now.
There's also a very interesting thing that happens that the characters, because they are gems that can be literally glued back together,
Right.
are
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
incredibly detached from their body.
Yeah.
So a character being injured doesn't have weight because
Yeah.
the characters are injured all the time. And a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
times the characters don't care. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, my arm broke off. I picked it
Dang.
up. I don't mind that my arm broke off. There's
Yeah.
this sense that, like,
There's no consequence.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's a lack of consequence, and there's a feeling that, like, if one character shattered another,
Eh.
it wouldn't matter. They'd glue them back together. It'd create some work for people because they'd
So
have to find the
you.
pieces.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think that was a thing that I think made the Lunarians kind of uninteresting. Was the lack of any kind of real feel of a threat. Because again they get shattered up a bunch, then they just get glued back together, and usually like it seems like they come in, they attack, somebody cuts them up. I think in this, I mean, did anybody in this series actually get taken away forever by the Lunarians? Hello.
Mandy!
Mandy? Did we lose Mandy? I think I upset her so much that we lost her. I just remembering the winter person. They got taken. That might be why she's so upset. Oops.
Winter person. Was there someone at the beginning, or did they get rescued?
I don't remember. I don't quite remember. I think, winter person. I'm not going to try to say their mineral names because they all have very complicated names. And I know they have short things that are short for their names, but I'm not going to do that. The winter person, a couple of people like very nearly got taken, but then at the last moment they were saved. So yeah, like maybe if it was more of maybe if we, or like for instance, like Attack on Titan, where a character that and that talks and seems to be relatively important just gets like eaten, then like they're gone.
There's also the Lunarians are very like ephemeral and like not like non-material. They're like clouds. They're like air. Like if they get cut in half, they like fade away into like fog and vanish. They don't feel very like physical, except for their traps where they use gems as weapons against the gem people.
Right. No, yeah. It was interesting. It was interesting. But I definitely think the lack of like consequence, the lack of feeling of actual danger there, made them kind of boring. I didn't particularly, feel stressed out at any one moment during that. Oh,
I'm getting a call. I'm gonna
go ahead and answer it. All right, we're gonna see if we can get everybody back. experiencing technical difficulty. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Noah, you're so big today.
Am I? Is the call like what's the call we're joining? What's technical difficulties?
So I think Mandy is probably trying to call us back. But as long as that's not happening just yet, something I was saying about Mandy said that it was kind of slow, and you and me were saying that the Lunarians didn't really feel that like terrifying.
I think that it would have been all right if they had used the Lunarians less frequently. I think the frequent exposure to the Lunarians, combined with their very ephemeral nature and the fact that most of their attacks were just not an issue, right? Most of their attacks, the gyms jumped up and they chopped them up, and the Lunarians turned to mist and faded away. If Lunarians had felt an an actual threat, if they had always been threatening when they showed up, then that might have made it better. The thing is, we have this storyline, right? We have this backstory of the Lunarians have been coming after them for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they've been taking people every once in a while. But we get this hint that maybe more recently they're using new tactics, they're using new strategies, they come from the moon, and maybe something strange is happening on the moon. But I don't think that they developed that or pushed that as much as they could have.
All right, real quick, I'm gonna see if I can get the call going again. Hang on one moment, ladies and gentlemen. And all right, hang on, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna go to a quick break. Just make sure. Wait, hold on. Oh, perhaps this is it.
Mandy was in the call for a moment, but when I add you, she disappears.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go do a quick break. We're going to see if we can sort things out. We'll be back in about 3-4 minutes. We don't go anywhere. Alrighty, let's see. Oh, hey guys, welcome back. I think we have just about got it figured out, Mandy. Her laptop died, and she is getting it worked out right now. Oh, hey, Mandy.
Why were you with them and not with your...
Wait, hang on one moment.
Oh my god.
Mandy,
All
I would
right.
like to ask, what is your opinion on the Lunarians and the way they are implemented?
I agreed with you in the sense that I think that they're not very
Lunarians and the
they're
way
not
they
very
are
scary.
implemented.
It's not really a threat. So I agree in that sense. I think they show up too much.
Uh,
I think if they showed up less, then it would seem more like a threat, and that would be more of a problem. It would be more like, and there needs to be a consequence. There needs to be something that happens that makes them like, oh, that person doesn't get to come back. And we kind of see that, but we don't know if, Sapphire's necessarily dead. Because Sapphire be able to be put back together. So, like, more of a consequence in that sense. Like, they absorbed or whatever. I liked the Lunarians, though, in the sense that they're cold-hearted. They're these white beings that don't really move. And then when Foss finally tries, spoiler alert, when Foss finally tries to talk to one, it tries to talk back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get this interesting thing where they're kind of all this like pale kind of like peach color. They're this like, I don't know what color it is. It's like a tan kind of color, and they're all the same color all the way through, and they all act in unison as if they are the same entity, and none of them feel distinct because of this similarity between them. They're all identical in appearance, identical in clothing, identical in color. And when one of them is separated, we get some color coming back to their eyes, and they maybe start to speak. And so maybe there's something going on with that could be built up.
Yeah. No, there's interesting stuff happening at the end there with them. I would be interested to know what's going on with that. So a thing that I have thought, one of the problems that I think, which Mandy, you said earlier, you thought it did move a little slowly, and the reason I think that is because of the character motivation in the story. So the main character, she has Foss, she has kind of a vague motivation. She wants to fight, she wants to be helpful, she wants to do this, but also the thing that she wants, which is to pretty much fight the Lunarians. It's not really something she can go after really, really hardcore, because they just kind of show up here and there. So there was a lot of kind of stagnant time with her where she's running around and talking about wanting to do stuff. And oh, did we lose you again, Mandy? Are you still there? Mandy, no. Well, she should rejoin us pretty shortly. She's having a little bit of trouble with her phone. Her laptop died over at Nendosukan, so or perhaps
Yay! Okay.
There it is. Oh, hey, now we're back to normal. Whoa,
yes.
Weird.
Hi.
So, yeah, like I was saying, yes, her motivation, it is, it's not really specific. It's a little bit open because she wants to help. She wants to fight. She wants to, please, whoever Senpai is, what was his name? I think they just call him Master or something.
They call him Master.
Kongao?
Kongao.
I don't know if they say his name ever.
Yeah. So, and because of that, she's the whole time we're watching her in the story, she's not like actively going after the thing that she wants, because kind of she can't. They just gotta show up randomly. She's
one of the things she wants is to be useful, though,
right.
and she feels like she's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why she does all of these things against him.
Yeah, and so for the first I think four so 5 episodes, she is upset she has to write this encyclopedia, and she spends those episodes kind of laying around being like, I don't know what to write. Whew. Well, write something, anything. Yeah, what? Like, I don't care. Like,
right.
You want to be helpful, do something. And I get that she did. That's not what she wanted to do. But
right.
As a character motivation for her, I think it would have perhaps made her a little stronger in that respect if she had tried to turn the thing that she was doing into what she wanted to do. Like, maybe if she's making an encyclopedia, she goes out and tries to like catalog all the combat moves or do something. But she just kind of sat there and complained about how it wasn't the thing she wanted to do for the first 4 or 5 episodes, which bugged me. But go ahead, Mandy. What do you?
That bugged me too.
Yeah.
Like, it really drove me crazy for 5 episodes. I'm like, seriously, like, if you don't want to do it, then like
go do something else, or try to make it happen. Like, that's the protagonist. That's the main character of the story.
You want to do something, figure out how it can help you. Like, I don't know. And
so that was a thing that I think made it slow. And because that's when, with respect to writing, like a slow, if someone says it was kind of slow, that means there's probably kind of something wrong with how the scenes are made up. Oh, there it goes again. But so when you're writing and someone says that it's slow, a lot of the times that just means there's something wrong with the way the scenes are put together. The characters don't have conflict. There's something wrong. And so I think with Fozz's motivation, I'm gonna.
Mandy, are you still here?
She's still here, I guess. Your camera is out, but that's okay. Noah's big old face is charming. We're zoomed in on him, so I'm gonna ignore it. We'll go in and out.
It's good. We can hear your voice.
I can still hear you, though. I can still hear you.
Sound great.
But, I pressed mute to see why my camera, because I'm seeing it on my end, but I'm not seeing you.
I don't know. IndieK, I bet the Wi-Fi there is a little bit crazy right now. Probably lots of people connecting to different things.
I also, on a side note, want to point out that the Master is the only one who isn't named after a gem.
Right.
Or like a mineral or something.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He doesn't even look like a mineral.
Yeah, no, and he doesn't look anything like the other characters. It's interesting. He might know more than... well, that's like the plot, right? That's like what...
Right,
but so one of the things, getting back to the character motivation thing, is that kind of made it slow, is a lack of motivation from other characters that conflicted directly with the protagonist. So like a really good example of character motivations conflicting is My Hero Academia, Midoriya, and Bakugo. Bakugo... He wants to be the best ever. Bakugo, whatever. He wants to be the best. He wants to be the number 1 hero. He wants to be the most powerful person ever. Midoriya wants to be the world's number 1 hero, which is kind of the same thing to Bakugo. Probably it's the same thing. And that obviously conflicts with what Bakugo wants. Because he wants that. Now, also, if Midoriya is helping him on a personal level with respect to like their interpersonal relationship, if he's helping him, that kind of means Bakugo needs his help, and he doesn't like that because he doesn't need anybody's help. So it creates a personal like feeling of disgust whenever Midoriya wants to help him. Although he's growing. But that's a great like conflict. It's not the thing that is driving the whole story, but it's an important element that is creating conflict within each scene. Now, a lot of the characters Well, in Land of the Lusterous.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Why do you think that is?
What do I think? What is?
Why do you think that Bakago's conflict and or Bakugo or whatever?
Yeah, Bakugo.
Kachan.
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 Done.
Why do you think that conflict is so strong?
I think that
What
conflict.
What makes it so strong?
So I think that conflict is really strong for a number of things. They do a number of things in My Hero to build that relationship. So obviously, Bakago, he's a very prideful character. We're getting flashbacks to when they're kids, they're running around. During the course of the first season, Midoriya gets this power, and Bakugo feels betrayed, like he was being lied to. He's kind of looked at himself as this, the big person, the most powerful, and now all of a sudden he feels like, he was lied to by Midoriya. His own pride obviously gets at him with every time Midoriya trying to help him, and of course that's like Midoriya's shtick. Is he wants to help people, especially Kachan. He needs to help him. And so that makes him feel small. And Noah, I think we had been talking about just the little things they do to build up that relationship.
I think that the flashbacks, that the history of the character are a huge part in what builds Bakugo up to be such a strong character and so good, because we see his history with Midoriya, and we see him grow and change over time. And in Land of the Lusterous, we don't get a flashback until very near the end of the season.
But that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Flashbacks all throughout, I think we would have had a lot stronger character development.
Well,
because
not necessarily.
That's I agree. Flashbacks are a great tool for that kind of stuff, but I think that really the thing they're lacking is a specific definite motivation from another character. That if you want to know what Bakugo's motivation is, watch the show for 5 minutes and you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, he just said like 6 times he's gonna be the best hero ever, he's gonna be most powerful. You know what his motivation is.
You said it in very well-rounded terms. Motivation. What is that? So they have a strong objective.
Yeah.
You have Bakugo, who has a strong objective. You have Midoriya, who has a very strong objective. They both know what they want,
and the audience knows they want that.
Exactly. And what is their obstacle? And that's what makes it so strong. That is what makes the scene so impactful.
Yeah.
Whereas Land of the Lustrous is not quite there yet.
Yeah.
I feel like it's growing, but I feel like that conflict, that the reason we watch this is because we want to know what they want.
Right. And
want to see how they react to their objective and how they do to get to what they want given the circumstances.
Yeah. And you don't have to necessarily have the characters fighting one another, but they have a motivation that and this is again Bakugo and Midoriya's motivation. It is the end goal is where it crosses, and only in the end only one of them is going to be the number one hero, at least at the same time. So they kind of just bump into each other along the way, and it makes the scenes interesting because they have this little bit of conflict going on in the scenes. Now, like in Land of the Lustrous, some of the other characters you can kind of see have motivations, but nothing that really conflicts with other people in a major way. Nobody's motivation really comes into a major conflict that would cause.
We don't have a main antagonist besides the Lunarians, and even
which is kind of this vague, almost it's just this vague threat that is gonna be there, but it's not really. It's not pressing.
I would say that the immortality of the characters makes it more difficult to relate to them and to make it feel as if their conflicts are meaningful. I think that the flashback that we got was helpful because it showed the character at a younger state. It gave a past to them, and it like showing where characters came from is very helpful for establishing motivation and for building them up. If we'd have had more build up on the past of the characters, then I think it would have helped, because we very much have a sense that things have just been the way they currently are
Right.
for a very long time, and things have been unchanging.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
It does, because it does. I mean, the way that they talk about it and the way that it, that everything happens in the story, it does kind of feel like they've been doing this exact same thing for 400 years or 1,000 years or however long, and this is just every single day is the same, and that nothing really changes. They're all just kind of on this island doing, the same thing, which does make it does make it feel like it's a big void, and that, well, nothing's probably going to happen for the next few hundred years. So,
But there is something that's different. Foss makes that different,
oh yeah,
and Foss wants to know why that senpai is lying.
right.
So
yeah.
there is a little like push and pull,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like it's strong. I don't feel like it's not. It doesn't have enough fuel behind it.
Yeah, no,
to really give it.
I
This
definitely
is-
agree with that.
This is something that I think is maybe an issue with the senpai's motivation is that he is lying to everyone, but he's not actively lying to them. He's
Right,
kind of
right.
passively like, I'm clearly lying to you. You can see I'm lying to you, but I don't care enough to make an effort. So I'm just gonna be like, nope, I don't know anything.
Yeah. Now, in that, like, this is, and we were talking about this, Noah, and somebody in chat was mentioning this, that after even like this huge event of the big like dog, like Jin kind of looking blue thing that turned into like puppies afterwards.
Oh yeah.
That was like a big event, but it didn't really have any major repercussions in the story. Like all the character, like, I mean, there was a bunch of these fluffy things for a little bit, and it was crazy, and but like afterwards everybody's just like, oh yeah, let's go about continue on with our business, and now of course our main character, she has questions about that, and that's spurring her more on to try to figure out what's going on with that, but it didn't really have the kind of, like, nobody stopped. Like nobody stopped and went, hey, wait a minute, why are you buddy with the giant dog thing that came from the moon or whatever? Like, what's up with that?
That literally nearly murdered people.
Yeah, that
but
nearly murdered lots of people. Yeah, I mean, it could have potentially murdered lots of people. It's just like, well, that's over. Let's continue doing our stuff.
I think that a lot of questions are posed in the show, like, well, what are the Lunarians? How can they make these forms? Where does this dog creature come from? And like, how did foes learn the language of other creatures? By being digested?
Yeah,
and
well, that's fair. It's like that's a weird, like,
Hi.
hey,
hi. I just think that there are a lot of elements in the show that show up that don't quite, like, they're not really explained, and we're left questioning them, and then just no explanation or hint of an explanation is really given.
Right, yeah. And
Like,
so,
what is the... Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, or so Mandy, what we were just saying is after the big attack by the blue thing, nobody like it just continued. Like, nobody stopped and was like, hey, like, what's up with that? You were like buddy with the big genie dog thing. Where'd that go? So it didn't feel like there was, like, even though that was a big event, it didn't feel like it went anywhere. Do you have any thoughts on that? And/or can you hear me?
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, AnimeCon. Sorry. Our internet. Sorry. I'm here.
Do you have thoughts on the big dog? The sensei was like, "Oh, you're a good dog," and then it was nice, and everyone was like, "Okay, we accept this dog now, even though it tried to murder death us."
I think that's why I felt like it went so slow, was because even in that, they didn't explain anything, and it wasn't questioned, like you said. Like any normal any being, even
Right.
animals, would be like, I'm scared of that. That's weird.
Right.
Like, that's not okay. So that to me is not necessarily a great, I mean, I can see where the segue was trying to come from, like that he's hiding something. But at the same time, like, how does that make it okay?
Yeah. And
why was Foss the only one to question that?
Yeah, and this is no, go ahead.
You know what we need? More flashbacks so that we can learn their backstory and their history with their master and mentor, who they all trust implicitly,
Right.
despite knowing that he is lying to all of them.
Yeah, no, and
If
this
only.
is they've brought that up a couple times, is that they all know that he has some kind of secret, and they do follow him like he's. I think we were saying that he's basically like the father figure of the whole, like, I guess civilization, I'd call him. Like he acts like the father of everybody. It's it's interesting. They do yeah, like have this implicit just trust, like, oh yeah, sure, I know he's lying about something, but hey, I trust him. So that nobody questions him even when some crazy stuff happens, and that ultimately that's. Or if the main character was making a big deal about it, like if she was running around going, hey, why is nobody talking about this? This seems like it's important to discuss.
Well, and we see a little bit of that. I mean, some of the older characters, they do try and push the fact that we know a secret and there's something there. But
they just
at the same time,
knowing it.
Exactly.
They don't really, nobody goes after it, which is interesting. And that's I think the biggest, like if somebody were to say, Jake, how do you fix this story? The first thing I would do is say, okay, well, you have to find whatever characters you want, 5 or 6 of the most important characters that you want, and give them a specific, definite motivation, a core driving motivation, and make them act on it in every scene. So if somebody wants to know what's up with the whole Lunarian thing, then every scene they're going to be poking and prodding and searching and trying to figure it out, Right. And if someone wants to be a fighter, they're going to do that, regardless of this and that. And if somebody the master guy, if he is trying to keep this secret, then give him some scenes where he's like actively doing something to keep something secret, because he just kind of doesn't talk, and that's how he keeps the secret, which is fair, I guess. If he just, the only way to break the secret is if he tells people. I don't know. He just doesn't have to talk. But like, I'd give them things to do that are specifically acting, not passively existing, but actively moving towards whatever their goal is.
So there is a suggestion that all of them are kind of afraid of him. Like, we don't really know what that's from. I think it's like he is the stern father figure that gives them a talking to, and so they're frightened of questioning him, kind of thing. But
yeah,
once again,
you do kind of get that, or they're just kind of
semi-frightened. We don't see enough of where that comes from.
Right. Well,
and
this actually reminds me of a weird unnatural. Yeah, exactly. Well, I was going to say, this reminds me of a weird unnatural moment that kind of happened, where the master wakes up. I can't remember if it was when she lost her legs or something happened. But the master's coming in, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, run away! It's the master. He's angry." And it's like, well, what's he gonna do? He's not gonna kill you. You're immortal. He might like break you for a moment, I guess. But like, they all like run away in terror from when she's in the medical, I guess, would you call it that? The sculpture studio, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's interesting. I think
like, what is the real threat?
Yeah, and that, I think, is a really important problem for the series, is that there doesn't feel like there's a threat. Now, I do think that the Lunarians could be a really interesting threat, because like, when you look at it, kind of on a simple level, the idea that some being is going to come out of the sky and snatch you up and use you as jewelry for the rest of eternity, that's kind of horrific. Like,
yeah,
I don't want that to happen.
And the fact that they don't get to die. Even she asked about that, which was a huge plot thing that I thought was very interesting to touch on.
Right.
However, I really liked the people who live in the ocean, the kind of octopusy. I don't know what I don't know what they're called. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but
no, yeah. I think that actually those two characters, the snail and the whatever they were, the animals, the
Right,
living beings,
right.
those actually were characters that we'll say the snail that ate Foe or Fa and gave her ability to talk to her.
Ventricusus.
Yeah.
And
That
Tricosis,
character
yeah,
was a character who had a specific guiding motivation, and that moved the story in an
yes.
interesting direction. She wants to go home. She wants her siblings. She sold out the main character to the moon
She
people to get her
had
brother back.
her wants.
Yeah,
She had
and
her
she
objective.
acted
Yeah.
on that, and that created a conflict, and that was probably the most like exciting moment of the story, because they go out to the ocean and there's a betrayal and there's this, and they need more of that. So I'm interested to see where they go with it. I honestly, I probably won't watch it if they have a second season. I don't know if they're planning on it.
Oh,
But unless somebody talks to me and is like, "Oh my god, the second season got so much better," and then maybe I'll watch a couple of episodes just to see, because I'm curious.
I'm curious. I think they left it at an interesting point, and I like the build in the sense that I felt like it could go somewhere.
Yeah,
It
no,
has potential.
it is an interesting idea. There's some very interesting elements in the story. One of the all the gyms having, or they're not gyms. They're just kind of elements, because one of them is like a mercury ore, and one of them is like they're not actually gyms. They're all kinds of different elements.
Everyone who's seen Steven Universe is gonna call them gyms, though. So
Oh, yeah, that's fair. I haven't seen Steven Universe, so I guess I'm not gonna do that.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So the next season, if they have a next season, I forgot my question. Never mind.
Oh dang! Now I'm in suspense. That's fair. But
No, I had one and I forgot.
overall,
It had to do with the fact that so with Steven Universe and the Lunarians and all of this, so what was the overall objective of the series? What do you think the super objective was?
of this series, you see,
Yeah.
I don't know. There didn't, and I'd been talking a little bit earlier about how I feel like I'm trying to think of what happened during this first season. They went and had that thing in the ocean once, and
So-
the character got some legs and she got some arms, and she changed her hair.
There's a moment that confused me greatly. So Foss is out there, right? And she's like talking to the microorganisms in the water, right?
Right.
And the microorganisms are saying, "Oh, geez, just stick your arms in and I'll nom those right off," right?
That was kind of
And
interesting.
That was
clearly,
interesting.
clearly the microorganisms seem like the villain here, because they're like, "Look,
Right.
don't try or work for anything. Just let me
Yeah.
bite your arms off, and then someone else will solve the problem
Yeah.
for you. It'll be fixed." And so they seem like a villain, right? And then Foz falls in, and the microorganisms only bite her arms off. They don't like eat more of her. And then the other character, Antarcticite, jumps in after her, looking for the arms, and the microorganisms don't hurt her. Like, the microorganisms were genuinely trying to do a good thing for Foz,
Or
but
or something.
they're just giving forward a message whilst doing that of, just like, cut your arms off and let someone else sort out the mess.
Right.
It'll
no,
be fine.
that was something that I was not super into about the main character, is that the main character didn't actually like accomplish anything in the story for herself. She just, like, her legs broke off. Oh, now she has super legs. Oh, okay, that's fair. Oh, her arms are gone. Here's some super arms.
Right.
That's fair.
They just kept giving her stuff without
and it wasn't as
having
if she
to
had,
deal
like,
with that.
Yeah, she didn't like go and like, and I mean this in a very figurative way, but like earn it. Like, she didn't go out and overcome some big thing and then she ended up doing this. She just
They tried to show her
Yeah.
earning it by her having to go to that mountain and do it herself.
Right. And
Like, that was her earning, but it didn't feel like it was given.
Yeah,
like it doesn't feel like she deserved it.
Yeah, it feels like, to me, it felt like she just, like, a thing happened to her, and then she got super legs, and then another thing happened to her, and then she got super arms. And that was very sad. She, I think, feels really bad about the taking of the winter person.
And I think that added in some ways to her character, because then she wanted to go back to,
she has changed,
being her innocent self, and she's not.
Mm-hmm.
So now she's the popular person, instead of the wallflower.
Right, and this is also the thing, like Noah was saying, of the kind of messaging there, in that, do you feel bad about yourself, and do you feel worthless? Okay, well, you need to change, and once you change and become better, then people will like you, and your life will be better, and you'll be useful. But you can't remain who you are. You have to change. That was maybe not my favorite, like, subtext ever, but go figure. But the series I do want to talk about real quick. Final thoughts on the show, because I want to talk about what we're going to be watching for next week. Before we get off, we have about 5 minutes left. Mandy, final thoughts on the series?
I'm very hopeful. I hope that the next season brings us quicker pace, more heightened objective, more heightened stakes. I just hope the stakes are more high, and that we get to see more of that character development.
And still,
I would still watch it,
right?
But yeah,
and some of the same animation, because you really enjoyed the animation.
I did. I really did. I thought they did a really brilliant job, and I think they should keep going in that direction. I loved how it didn't pop too much. I felt like it was more flat than normal CG, and so that's how it kept the anime, but it still popped out.
Yeah, I think Ruby has a similar feel to that because of the way they do the, like, shading and such.
Yeah, I do feel like later on in the series, the animation, the fighting got a little bit more interesting, got a little bit better. Not to say it was bad at all to start off with. It's not my style, but I think in the end, when they were getting near some of the later fighting scenes, I think they just had done a little bit of a better job than they had done, even though I think they did a fine job with it. Just not my style.
They got their message across better, I felt like, in the end of the series.
Absolutely.
Like, it came through more clearly.
All right. Noah, final thoughts on the show?
I was worried I wouldn't be able to find a best girl, but I have decided.
Ooh, did you?
I think the best girl goes to the best girl award goes to the jellyfish.
That's true. Agreed. Those jellyfish, very helpful making decisions. 100% on board with the jellyfish being best girl. Everybody probably can guess my opinion. I didn't think it was great. I thought it was kind of slow. Need character motivation. Animation wasn't my thing. I don't think it was awful. I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse. Wasn't my thing. If it was your thing,
Jake, Jake, anyone who watches anime has seen worse.
Oh yeah. If you've spent 20 minutes doing it, you've seen worse. But for what it is, I think it's interesting, and I think it does have potential. Maybe if they can get some more interesting character motivations that drive the story. Next week, what are we going to be watching this week to discuss next week? We had a couple things in mind. I think One Punch Man was in there. The film A Silent Voice was in there. Fantastic film. I have already seen that. Anime movie. Is it an anime? We're not going to discuss that right now. Mandy, do you have anything you'd like to throw in the ring?
I've never seen Little Witch Academia.
Oh, that's interesting. How long is that? Do you know?
I don't know how long that is.
Interesting.
Do you know?
I'm not sure. I watched it all at one point, but I don't remember.
Oh, that's interesting. I think we'll probably do. This might be fun for the viewers. We're going to watch probably A Silent Voice for this coming Saturday. I believe that is
it will make you
Saturday,
happy.
The 8th of September. A Silent Voice, it is a movie. It's about, I think, 2 hours long. It's delightful. I loved it. I shouldn't
But you've
say
already
anything
seen
negative.
it.
I have already seen
I
it.
showed it to Jake like
yeah.
a week or two ago.
Oh, it was more
I
like
thought
a
we were
month ago.
picking things we hadn't seen. That's
Well,
cheating.
that's not possible with Noah. So I get to choose something. We get to have
He
something
didn't
I've
see
already
this.
seen. That's true. That's true. But A Silent Voice, you will like it. I hope
Yeah.
you'll like it. If you don't, that's fine. We'll discuss why that was. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us on an anime story podcast. We will see you guys next time on Saturday, the 8th of September, I believe, 5 p.m. MST. Bye.
Everyone from NDK. Ugh.